This is the new Peugeot 508, and it's a bit like Derek Zoolander in the way that it's really ridiculously good looking. Yeah, that was my best Magnum impression. Now, you do have to pay for the looks. You see, it's a little bit more expensive than your normal family hatchback. The Peugeot 508 starts from £25,000, though you can save an average of £3,000 on one through carwow. So click on the pop-out banner in the top right-hand corner of the screen or on the link below the video to go to carwow to see how much you can save on a new car. It makes sense to start this review by talking about the 508's looks because it's a really stunning car. Peugeot's designed it to help lure people back away from SUVs and into more traditional family hatchbacks. But there's nothing traditional about the way it looks. I mean, these fangs here down the side which light up, and the fact that this grille, it has this chrome checkered effect, though it's slightly different on cheaper versions of this car. Beautiful at the front then. Get large alloy wheels as well. And this is another feature, look. Frameless doors and windows like on a sporty coupe. That's really cool. Then as you move to the back, this window extends all the way back here, though when you open it you get this kind of weird fake carbon fibre bit here. Back's really swoopy, and I love the look of the rear end. Oh, it's beautiful. This horrible fixed tow bar, ignore that. You're not going to have it fitted to the car unless you're going to be towing a caravan. So this is the range topping version, so it has an electric powered tailgate. Most cars don't actually have that. All right, there we go. Space inside the boot is pretty decent, as you can see. It's quite a square shape as well. There's not too much of a load lip to lift your suitcases or luggage or whatever you need to carry over. One of the things that is a bit annoying about it is this, look. So you've got a if I can get rid of it, two-piece parcel shelf. I'm not going to remove this bit because it's a bit of a faff, and obviously you're going to have to store that inside the car. Right, under here, you do have some storage if you don't have a Space Saver spare wheel, but I'll probably stick with the Space Saver just for peace of mind. There's a few tie-down places, and the ones up here feel quite expensive. There's a little place to hang your shopping bag off there so your bits and pieces don't fall about in the boot, and there's a 12-volt socket there you can charge up your Hoover and vacuum out the boot. Now, one thing I'm not so keen on with this is folding down the rear seats, because you really have to lean into doing it. It's actually quite hard. You're better off just going all the way around here and doing it there like that. Get the seat belts out of the way. Right, when you do that, oh, bloody neck. It's actually really hard to get at. Just it's not easy to do. You have to kind of contort your wrist. So with the seats folded, they don't lie completely flat, but it's a continuous floor, so it's possible to just slide heavy items straight to the front. Right, let's check out the back seats. Remove this suitcase. The door is big enough. That does help when it comes to fitting a child seat. Right, get this back. Right, oh, I've got my coat caught. Now, I do like the design of the seats in here. Really nice on this GT model. Already I see a problem with that sloping roofline. Headroom here in the back is not particularly good. Knee room is all right, but once again, it's not amazing. Also, the seat seems quite low, which means my knees seem quite high. It's almost like I'm in a stress position, and you don't get much under the leg support either. I wouldn't want to go really far in the back of this car. Foot space isn't particularly great either, because the seats are quite low in front that you can't really put your feet far underneath them, which is a bit of a shame. If you need to carry 3 people at once, there is a hub in the floor, but it's not too big. And yeah, head space isn't great. Only for kids if you're carrying 3 at once. Speaking of kids, it does feel quite dark back here. It doesn't help the fact that it's got the dark leather and the dark roof lining. The window ledge isn't too high though, so smaller children will be able to get an okay view out, but it isn't the best. This is not great. The coat hook is here, so if there's someone in the back, they're going to have it right next to their face, which is not good at all. That's the worst place I've ever seen for a coat hook. You do have these little lights there like that, and they're kind of in the right position, but they're also a bit close to your eye, so it's very distracting. Now I want to show you this, look. So we've got the armrest here, you fold it down, got some cup holders there. The good news is there's space here for you to rest your elbow, so it all works out all right. Now these seats split 2-way, but if you want to carry longer items, you've got some through loading there, but it's not particularly big. You're only going to really be able to carry skis. In terms of other areas of practicality, the door bins, they're not the largest here in the back. just about enough room for a bottle. And the seat back nets, they're tiny as well. You're not going to be able to fit much in those. You've got 2 USBs down here, so 2 people in the back can charge their mobile devices. Okay, so let's move into the front. What I like about this car is that it's just as stylish on the inside as it is on the outside. So take a look at that dash. I think it's really, really stylish. Peugeot have been brave with it and it's paid off. This kind of 2-step design is quite unique. They've got a carbon fibre stitch effect here, but it doesn't look tacky. It's nice and soft as well. And up here, and you've got the stitching along there. It's nice and soft here. You've got quality feeling materials throughout until you go a bit lower down. I don't know what it is with Peugeot, but when they do cheap plastics, boy, do they feel cheap, especially down here by the door bins. But the rest of it is nice, and you've got this sweeping panel here which separates you from the passenger. It feels super sporty. You've got this lovely small steering wheel. The instruments are actually above it, so rather than looking through the steering wheel, you have to peer above the wheel. Now, that is fine in Peugeot's SUVs where you sit more upright, but in this one you want to sit low. The steering wheel can obscure it, so you may want to just raise the seat a bit, which kind of spoils the sporty feeling. Now let's talk about this instrument cluster. So it's all digital, and I can cycle through different views and different menus to have it exactly as I want it and to show the information that I need. Then you've got the big central screen. Both of these screens are standard across the entire range. This one is not quite so impressive because those and many other cars are just slicker. So it's a touch screen, so you can swipe through different menus and various functions, but it's a little bit slow to respond. Also, the satellite navigation is a little bit laggy. So look at this as I'm moving the map about. It's not the most responsive. I also find the menu layout a bit unintuitive as well. You do have Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, which is handy, though the actual port for connecting your phone is on the left-hand side rather than on the right, which is probably where you'd want it as the driver. Obviously, that's set up for French drivers. I do like these shortcut buttons though. They're a bit like piano keys, really, really slick. Though when you're driving, it's hard to see the icons, though I'm sure once you've owned this car for a week or two, you know exactly where each one is and what it does. You see, for instance, this one here, which has like a head with some dots around it. It's not a man who's being attacked by some bees. It's for the thing called cockpit amplify. So you can choose between different functions. One's for relax, and so it plays ambient relaxing music. It sets the air conditioning to a nice average temperature, and it also activates the massage seats if you have them, which this car does. Then there's the other one, which is boost, which is supposed to be a bit more invigorating, a bit more lively. So yeah, that's great, isn't it? It's a bit of a gimmick really. Underneath here you have these really cool touch sensitive controls for most of the air conditioning. However, if you want to do things like set the fan speed as you want it, you do have to press this button to bring up the menu and then operate it through the screen, which means you're taking your eyes off the road for a bit longer than I'd ideally like. Now, for my full detailed video on this car's infotainment system, click on the pop-out button in the top right-hand corner of the screen or the link below the video, and in that I'll actually talk around the interior a little bit more. But for now, let's mention the cubby spaces. So here you've got this big cubby on the dash there. You can cover it up if you want to. There's plenty of space. You can fit a mobile phone in there. It's perfect for that. You've got 2 cup holders here. So yeah, they'll take bottles and they'll also take your coffee. The only problem is this, look, it's almost a little bit too deep for a standard coffee cup. Knocks the top loose, which could be a bit dangerous if you're driving. Spill coffee all down yourself. Move that out of the way. Got some more storage under here, plenty actually. And then the door bins are a reasonable size. You can fit 2 bottles in them, no problem at all. Last thing I'm going to show you, the sun visors. So it looks like you're going to have a big mirror, but you don't. Got 2 little lights on them as well. The only thing is, if the ignition isn't on, then you don't get the illumination. It's the same over on the passenger side as well, which is a bit silly. Speaking of illumination, I do like the touch sensitive lights here, which you just operate dead easy like that. I said they're easy, and then I failed to operate it easily. They're easy to operate if you're not being a complete and utter idiot. Now let's talk about equipment levels. As standard, this car has 17-inch alloy wheels. You also get electric lumbar support on every single model, which is good because it stops you getting a bad back on longer journeys. Now, as you move up the range, you get some extra bits and pieces, and you want to go for one of the sporty models because then you get LED headlights and tail lights, and you also get some extra black bits of trim which make it look super cool. This is the range-topping GT, so it's got everything on it. You've got a focal stereo for some extra sound performance. You get leather seats, and 19-inch alloy wheels, but all this does add to the cost. So this particular car, this GT line, 2-litre diesel, yeah, it costs £36,500. So it's definitely worth going on to carwow and seeing how much you can save on one. So I plugged the details in to our configurator for this exact car, and I got an offer back for just under £33,000, so that's a saving of almost £4,000 if buying it on cash. If buying on finance, you can get a bit more off, so then it costs just over £31,000, which is more reasonable, but still, yeah, it's quite an expensive car. So click on the pop-out button in the top right-hand corner of the screen or on the link below the video to try out our configurator on this Peugeot or any car for that matter.
Now then, it's time for the carwow 5 annoying things about this car.
If you open the rear doors with even the tiniest bit of force, they spring back on their hinges and they can hit you on the head. I'll demonstrate now. The surround view parking aid isn't particularly good because this car doesn't actually have side cameras, so instead it has to do a fudge with the front and rear cameras and draw in the image as you drive along. Look, so now it's driving along and filling in the image so I can see what is at the side of me, which is absolutely useless if you're starting from a standstill and trying to get out of a tight parking spot. Well, it's nice that you can get massage seats with this car. You might not want to use it very often because they make a really weird noise in operation. Have a listen to this. That has to be the loudest massage seat I've ever heard in any car. The frameless windows aren't quite so cool here on the back doors because of this. Look, when I put the window down, you're left with this fixed piece still there. And look at this as well. The back windows, despite this separate section, don't go all the way down. To get at the ISOFIX anchor points, you have to lower these zips, and they're so fiddly and stiff. Yeah, the ISOFIX point's in there. This one though, it's I think it's stuck. I ain't gonna pull it because it definitely will break.
It's not all negative though. Here's 5 good things about this car.
The rear lights do this little dance when you unlock the car to welcome your arrival. You can get this car with a night vision system. Night vision, yeah, seeing in the dark. While entry-level cars get a slatted grille, high specification GT models get this chrome checkered flag effect. Cool. The lane keeping assist can be configured to keep you on one side of the lane to leave space for motorcyclists to filter past you. Take a look at this down here. You have ISOFIX anchor points for the front passenger seat. Very good. When you first get in the Peugeot 508 and start to drive it, it does have a real sporty feeling, even though it is a normal family hatchback. You sit quite low and you've got this steeply raked windscreen, but the viewport is actually quite good. You can tell where the front corners of the car are. What's not so good though is this huge pillar there. I mean, look at that. That is quite a blind spot, which you end up having to look round. The out the back isn't great either. You've got a tiny rear window, and the rear pillars, they're really fat, so that's awkward when you're pulling out of junctions and trying to filter and stuff like that. Now, most versions of the 508 come with an automatic gearbox as standard, which is good because the manual you get on the entry-level car really isn't very nice. So this auto, it blends gears together well. It's responsive enough. You can change gears yourself using these paddles, but there seems to be like a second delay from when you press the paddle to when it changes gear, so best to just let it do its own thing. In terms of comfort, generally it's very good. This particular car that I'm driving, the GT, has adaptive suspension. It comes as standard, and you can get adaptive on the other versions. And generally, over bumps, it's really nice, though you do still feel the car fidget around a little bit as you go over imperfections in the road. Also, classic trait of Peugeots is when you hit a big pothole or something, you get this massive thump from the suspension as the wheel hits it, and the sound reverberates around the cabin, and that's something you don't actually get in that many cars. It's quite an annoying trait, but it doesn't happen too often, and generally this is a comfy car. If you're going to be doing lots of motorway miles, get one of the 2-litre diesels. This one is the 180 horsepower version. It's got plenty of punch when you put your foot down. It does start to rattle a bit when you rev it, but generally it's pretty relaxing to drive. As for economy, I'm doing almost 41 miles per gallon, which is all right. You can get a slightly lower power version with 160 horsepower, and you know, actually that's good enough. There is a 1.5 litre diesel, but avoid it because it's just too slow. If you're not doing many miles, get one of the petrols, one of the 1.6 litre turbo petrols. You can even get one with 225 horsepower, but it never feels super duper quick. not kind of hot hatch quick, it's just nippy. When you're cruising on the motorway, it's a reasonably quiet car. You do notice a little bit of tyre and road noise, but that's about it. But what about when you get on a twisty road? Well, I'm going to put this car into sports mode. What that does is add some weight to the steering, shortens the throttle response, makes the gearbox change a little bit quicker, and in this car, because it's got the adaptive suspension, it makes the suspension firmer. So you do notice the bumps a bit more, but it does stop the car leaning so much through the corners. And the first thing you do notice with this car is that you've got this small steering wheel. So, did you notice that? That's the suspension noise when you go over a bump. Anyway, back to the steering. Because it's a small steering wheel, it makes the steering feel really sharp and sporty. However, if you go too quickly into a corner, this does start to run wide as the front tyres start to lose a little bit of grip. To be fair, it holds on well enough through the bends. I guess the problem I have with it is that it doesn't feel quite as sporty as it looks. That probably won't matter, but yeah, it's kind of like it's leading you on a touch. Generally though, it's still a nice car to drive. If you want to see how much money you can save on a Peugeot 508, click on the pop-out banner in the top right-hand corner of the screen or the link below the video to see the deals on carwow. So then, my verdicts on this car: should you avoid it? Should you consider it? Should you shortlist it? Or should you just go right ahead and buy it? Well, I reckon you should shortlist the 508. It's a good family hatchback and it looks gorgeous.
If you enjoyed this video, please like it, comment on it and share it. Also click on our logo to subscribe to this channel. And if you click on the bottom right hand corner, you can actually watch more of our content. Meanwhile, click over to the right to go to our deals page to see how much money you can save on a new car at carwow. Now, did you spot the Easter egg in this video? It was a picture of a Peugeot salt and pepper grinder on my phone in the car's cubby.